Okay, let's take a look and see what came in just now. I don't buy new media too often. I have a decent amount of media, but there are certain things that would certainly improve upon what I'm always doing. Okay, big box, tiny little product here. These are acrylic painter white pens. 6 white and 2 black came in this pack. I think it was about $10 or something like that. Alright, now I didn't see these being sold individually, or if I did, it was from other brands and whatnot. But most of the, when I entered white paint pens, these multi-packs came up, and I'm guessing it's just because they're probably very inexpensive to manufacture. And there were several different brands, okay? But the construction of them in terms of the barrels all looked... I mean, I didn't look over 20 different types or something like that, but the barrels all looked very similar to me. It was just the labels on them were different, which leads me to believe that they might all be coming out of the same manufacturing plant. They're just branded whatever, you know. Whoever purchases places a minimum order, they can put whatever label they want on it, or they just get the the generic barrel or construction of it, and then they apply their own sticker label over that, around it, or they just tell that company what to put on there, and that company will do it for them. And that's probably very much the case. Okay, so this is the type of pen where there's a little some kind of shaker, agitator ball on the inside. This one feels like it could be metal, I'm guessing. It could be, I mean, I think it's not plastic, although it could be, although this is just a plastic barrel here, so it could be a metal thing. It just, I don't know, I guess it wouldn't be plastic, it wouldn't shake in here, but I can hear that agitator shaking in here. And the instructions for this type of pen are to shake the pen well before using, and then you press the tip to release the air. I guess there's some air in the front here, and to get it flowing, and to press this tip several times until the ink starts to flow. Replace the tip after use. Okay, your typical thing. So if you've had things like these metallic pens, and some of the other paint pens are like that too, you'll know the situation with that. So every time you use one of these, you always want to shake it up, because the ink and the binder starts to separate. And what I would recommend on pens like these, although I don't always do it, but if you don't use them for a long time, you might not want to store them like this, because that separation of ink and binder, or in this case paint and binder, might be a little bit more extreme. And sometimes it's just easier to agitate and to work up into that the right consistency, and the combining of that mixture might be easier if you just do it on its side like that. That way there's not this huge amount of binder at the top, in order to be mixed in. I think the separation is a little bit less extreme. Okay, so if this pen works the way I hope it will, I'm looking for a real opaque version of a white gel pen, okay? I used to use white paint pens, and those worked really well, but I kind of moved away from those. Those were a little bit more temperamental than the gel pens. Especially when I was using them in class. I never had any problem with the white paint pens myself, but when you start using them in classes and you have a set of 20 of those types of pens, inevitably what happens is there's this little spring action to that tip right there, and if everyone's kind of depressing it, and it doesn't flow right away. What happened is with those old types of paint pens and with something like this, someone will go like this inevitably, and they'll just go like this, and you know, it's not a brand new one, so sometimes they go like this and this and this, and it gets a big blob of paint out because, you know, you're really not supposed to depress it so much after the first usage, okay? So that being said, let's see how long this takes to get flowing here. I have a piece of matte black paper right here. It's my scrap black paper that I do everything on. Okay, now these are also a 0.7 millimeter tip, and that's typically what I want. I saw other sets that came in the 0.7 and a 1.0. And I don't know, they were advertising a lot of things like works on glass, rocks. I'm looking right here. It says paper. It says skin. That's why I didn't say anything. I'm thinking, why would someone write this on their skin? It says it works on glass, cloth, metal, and plastic, and okay. So there it is flowing. Can you see that right there? Now I can tell that already. Well, maybe not. I was going to say this right here. No, this is like a plastic tip here, so I was going to say I can tell already that's more opaque than a white gel pen. It's not going to be more opaque than your Dr. Martens bleed proof white, but this is just a really convenient form. Anytime something's in pen form, you don't have to go to you know, like a brush and then mix up your solution like that. It's going to be a little bit more convenient. So here's the white gel pen. I don't know, maybe I'll take that back. That looks pretty opaque next to this acrylic here. Let me shake this up a little bit more though. The more you shake this up, the more of that paint will go into solution. And who knows how these were stored? They were probably stored like this, you know, in a box. So, and also brand new. So I like the idea. Oh, I also saw some oil-based white pens. Okay, now I would tend to think that those could potentially dry different, you know, so if you didn't use them, and I saw them in multi-packs, I just didn't know if I needed 6 or whatever. There was, that might have been the minimum number, and it might have came in packs of 10 or something like that, or 6, and there were 3.7s and 1.0. I'm not sure. Okay, let's try this again. Now, what I'm noticing is if you're doing this on, you know, black paper like this, it's typical paint on, I don't know, surface. It goes on much more opaque and white. Than it looks when it dries. Okay, so let's test it out here. Okay, I'm just going to do this on a couple of the scenes I just did here. This one's looking really anemic. It needs to be sprayed. So let's take a look here and see how it looks in comparison to the gel pen. Alright. It's hard to tell right now. I'm just adding some more kind of a snowy branch type of look. In comparison to the 0.7 millimeter gel pen, you get a noticeably wider application of paint than the gel pen, you know, because the gel pen's a ballpoint. This one's kind of like a plastic tip here with, I'm guessing, a hole in the front that's feeding that, so it feels, this one feels like the 1.0 gel pen application to me, if you know what I'm talking about, something like the Uniball the Uniball Signo 1.0, that one from Japan. That being said, this is going on pretty well. It's the same opacity. I don't think I'm going to get more opaque. Okay, let me try this on a sealed. I already spray sealed this in my previous video. So that can affect potentially the opacity, because this is a water-based medium. It's acrylic, so when I'm adding it over things like water-based media, it could create a situation where the media that you've already laid down, the dye-based inks here, could go back into solution a little bit and permeate the mark that you lay down over the top of it with a medium with a similar binder. So you put in water-based on water-based, and it could potentially create a situation where it goes back into a solution and creates a less than opaque mark. Okay, translucent means you can see through it a little bit. Opaque means it's completely, solid over the top. Okay, let's try this on some of these trees like this. Okay, I didn't do too much because I don't want to spend, this scene was already taking a little bit of time, so I didn't want to add in too many more white gel pen marks like on these trees right here, but I initially intended for these trees to get a little bit more kind of snow treatments using that gel pen. So let me try it right here. Okay, so I'm adding it right in here. Not all the marks are this pen today, but can you see where some are a little bit lighter than the other ones? I don't know if you can tell. Like that one right there is a little bit more translucent. That one's whiter. Okay, now as I'm using this, I do believe it's getting a little bit more opaque the more I use this. Okay, so maybe this is going to do the trick here. I'm trying to make some of these little lights. I mean, this is the card that provided the impetus to finally get out there and get a little bit more of an opaque white pen. I like the translucency for some things, but for things that like this that are representing light, actual physical lights, like lighting up something, you do want things to be somewhat opaque. You want that white to be nice and bright white and not showing the color underneath. The ones that are a little bit more translucent are great for things like highlights. If it represents a highlight on, something, the rooftop or something like that, had to have a little bit of that color showing through is actually a benefit, because it just seems to kind of harmonize with what's already been laid down. Okay, let me take a look on here. Now I want some of these tops of some of these little patches of snow to be a little bit lighter. Let's see if I can do that. Okay, now I'm noticing this is drying, so you just kind of reestablish that flow by pressing down on the tip a little bit. You don't want to pogo stick this and just go like that, otherwise you're going to get a big blob of paint. So you just kind of depress it a little bit, and it should get it flowing. I can see it coming out of my paper. Alright, let's see if this does get a little bit lighter on here than, in this case it was the Signo gel pen. Alright, sometimes this is looking really quite opaque, and sometimes it's not. Maybe it's because I can tell when I'm putting it on here on top of the gel pen pen's kind of going back into solution, and it's kind of spreading around, so I'm not getting a pure application of just this pen right here. Okay, I'm actually digging away at some of that gel pen work, scratching it off. I mean, I could spray seal this first and then go over it with this, and that would probably be more effective rather than kind of scraping up some of that gel pen, but I don't want to do that right now. Well, maybe I'll do it later, but... Okay, one of the things I didn't do before is I need to reestablish that steeple I colored it out. So that's one of those good things about things like gel pens, and where you can do a little bit of, you know, oh, I wish it was a little bit more opaque, but I was going to say opacity, but basically light on dark is because you can go back and reestablish some areas that you preferred light, but you just couldn't avoid it, you know, with your application of color. So you can just go back in and reestablish it with things like these types of pens that allow us to go back in and reestablish a lighter value. Okay, adding to some of these trees, putting some snow on them. All right, now I think what I'm going to find here is that this is not quite what I wanted, but this is a very good tool here. Okay, now I can't speak in terms of the longevity of it, if it's going to be temperamental or not over time, because I just opened it, of course, but from what I know of these types of pens, you know, with that little thing inside that shakes it. By the way, this is Miasom? I don't know how you pronounce it. Miaosun. But what I know of this type of pen is that I've had pretty good luck with them over the years. You like the metallic ones that have that little ball inside that you can shake up. Those metallic pens are not acrylic though, so I don't know. But this one had a really high rating. It was practically 5 stars with over 100 reviews. So they could be like, you know, initial response types of videos with very little follow-up or something like that. So I don't know how long these will last without clogging and the typical problems that, you know, you can have with the paint pens. But so far so good, and I see it being a formidable tool for my use. And I certainly use these types of pens all the time, you know, the gel pen. Yeah, it's just not quite opaque. I believe the white paint pen that I used to use, I do believe that was kind of more of an oil-based pen, like a xylene one. It wasn't stinky like some of those, you know, like color felt types of pens, but and it did have that look, and it had kind of more of a shiny end result, a shiny mark. So I couldn't find that though, and I was looking for an old one. I've tossed all my old ones out. I should have kept one that even, you know, if it wasn't working or not, but I thought it was Marvy, but I looked around and I didn't see anything. So I don't know, gel pens have taken over the world. You don't really find those old-fashioned like ballpoint pens even, you know, anymore. So things like a real kind of niche product like those paint pens, I don't know if we can find them, at least that same brand that I used to use. All right, now sometimes when I'm putting this over a really dark object like these trees right here, it does really look quite opaque. It could just be from the contrast, but actually, no, that looks pretty good. I don't know when I put that out. Yeah, okay, that does. I don't know. This is kind of going in and out for me. Sometimes it's really opaque, and sometimes it's very translucent. So I'm getting some opacity now again. Go figure. I don't know. this isn't this isn't a knowledgeable review. It's just my first kind of a, you know, reaction to this. So I'm getting some different results here. Okay, so if it can get that kind of that really good opacity, I'm thinking once this thing gets moving and I'm using it on a regular basis, it's flowing, the paint's really mixed in well together, I'm guessing it'll be fairly opaque. And like I said before, it would be a good addition to my list of supplies that I use, but maybe not in replacement of, like, say, a white gel pen that I like for its translucent type of qualities when applied. But it would just be nice to have variations on kind of value in terms of my highlighting effects types of pens. So we have various values of like grays and colors and things like that. Why not have various values of our embellishment marks? I mean, this scene right here really has changed with the use of the, you know, the white dot, the white marks in here, the highlights all over this. I mean, it's completely different, different characters. So, you know, I mean, it would make sense to, if they exist, to have different levels of opacity and thus value, lighter values and darker values of these types of applicators and pens. So, and then you always have the bleed-proof white. So I'm going to keep looking around, though. I really want that other paint pen that I used to use before. And I don't know. I'll have to try this on different surfaces. Sometimes this one came with the 0.7 black ones too. I don't really have a use for that when it comes to rubber stamping, but I don't know. We can potentially use it on something. I think it did say, yeah, cloth, like it shows a pair of shoes there. I don't know how this is going to last on something like fabric. I think some people did use it on fabric, but they had to write over it again because it eventually kind of wears out. Although it does say pigment ink, strong covering force, sunproof, and waterproof. I don't know. It's kind of interesting to me. So anyways, I'll try to figure out some different applications for these types of pens as well as I go along. But not a bad purchase, and like I said, there's, what'd I say? There's 8 pens in here, and it costs like $10, so that's a pretty good value to me, and I think that's, you know, the average price on this type of pen. And like I said, I believe, yeah, see, it's made in China. I think they're all coming out of one plant, so... there's different reviews. I got the ones that had a lot of reviews, you know, just, you know, for a little bit of reassurance. So anyways, maybe look into it, and if you do, tell me what you think. Okay, thanks for watching.